But looking through all of those, what can you describe as something that strikes you from this budget?
Well, I think it is not different from any other budget. I don't see anything different. I mean, we are now moving now to a cycle of May to May, where we normally should have January to December. We are now adjusting the rules, to suit some of the inadequacies of the process, which is also not right. We need to bring a lot of discipline into the budgetary process.
Tell us about this last three: the price of crude, the oil production, and exchange rate. These components that they predicated the budget upon.
Well, these are the budget assumptions. I think they look reasonable. They look sustainable. I don't see any major problem with it. But look at the deficit. Look at the deficit. What this tells you is that the entire capital expenditure is being funded by borrowing. That is it. Even the revenue is not enough to even cover the recurrent expenditure. But it's a major issue with our fiscal management.
Should we take solace in the fact that the infrastructure sector, works? It has a huge, I think it has the highest of the votes now. And then when the minister has said there was a lot of debts accumulated in that sector.
Yeah.
Now that they have all of these votes, aren't we going to see a lot more infrastructure put in place to open up the system so that goods and services can flow?
We can expect to see more, but again, the deficit is much bigger than what is in the budget. And that is why we should also be asking the states, what are they putting on the table as far as infrastructure is concerned, as far as education is concerned, as far as health is concerned, as far as agricultural sector is concerned? The states even have bigger roles to play in this. Take agriculture. When you talk about access to land, it is the state that can make that happen. It's not the federal government. You are talking about farm equipment. It's the states that should be able to provide that. You can't expect the federal government to be providing machineries, land clearing, all these other harvesters and things that we need for agricultural transportation. If you talk of rural roads to connect the rural community where you do the farming to the cities, it is not the federal government that will do that. So the level of engagement at the states need to be reinforced. It needs to be improved so that we have better accountability at all levels of government. That is very important.
But at the end of the day, if this budget is implemented, I know they always talk about, what is it, 50-60% implementation? What do you expect from this one?
Well, this one, again, it depends on the assumptions, because at the last budget, there were all sorts of shortfalls in revenue. I listened to the Customs Controller General lamenting that one of the big challenges he had with meeting the revenue target was the 41 items. So while the Customs is struggling to increase revenue, the central bank is busy, imposing policies that will make it difficult for Customs to achieve its targets.
Which they say is going to benefit the society.
Yes.
Because we need to start manufacturing those things locally here.
We need to start manufacturing, but we also need revenue to fix infrastructure. You need to look at all these things and balance them out.
Let's talk about the Power Works and Housing Ministry and then the capital expenditure for the year. 553.7 billion naira is what is expected for them to. These are three. That's huge. These are three ministries all joined into one. Housing, for instance, is a deficiency of about 17 million houses in Nigeria. They have the responsibility partly to make that happen in collaboration with the private sector. And you also have the roads that are being, a big major concern also. The interstate roads are a problem. They are not in good shape. The local government roads are even worse. How does this budget begin to address these concerns?
Well, these budgets can only do so much. And that is why policy is important, even when we discuss the budget. All we are discussing is appropriation. But the policy aspect of this is also important, because you need the right policies to mobilize private sector capital to fix some of these things, like housing. You have very good policies on land, access to land and things like that. a lot of private capital can come into the place. If you have the right kind of policies for infrastructure, for private sector window in investment in infrastructure, a lot of private capital can come into it. I mean, look, take the case of the refineries. We've had how many refineries? And we are still importing fuel to the extent that we still import today. That 30% of our foreign earnings is going to importation of fuel. Why? Because the refineries are being managed by the government bureaucracy. A lot of money is spent on turnaround maintenance, huge overheads, and all of that. If before now you have had very good policy that encouraged private refineries, the government will have been out of that business. So we can do that for all the areas of infrastructure. If you ask me, the policy aspect of all of these things is even more important than the appropriation. Because through that you can make a lot of impact. I mean, look at the spending power of the citizens of the economy, for instance. I was going through some statistics. ATM withdrawals, just ATM, in 2016, which was a year of recession, was 5 trillion naira. ATM. As simple, as little as it looks. That's to show you the volume of activity that can take place outside of government.
Turnovers.
Yes, 5 trillion. POS was about 800 billion. And these are retail transactions.
And if I could,
electronic transfer was 38 trillion.
And you know, we also took into cognizance, and it's also related to what you just made about the point you made about those policies. One of the members of the House of Reps who moved the motion last year said the abandoned projects, I think he put the figure at about 5 trillion, the same 5 trillion. So you can then imagine, as you say, if those policies have been properly formulated such that you don't have them start and stop those projects, 5 trillion worth of investments of infrastructure development would have taken place in the system.
Exactly.
So I think that perhaps crystallizes your point on the 2017 budget as has just been passed. National Assembly, they've made public theirs, and Mr. Yusuf thinks the states, the searchlight should be on the states and the local government so that we all see what are they doing with our money. We appreciate your comment on this morning. Muda Yusuf is the Director General of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry.